I'm 61 years old. My name's Daniel. I've been married to Linda for 39 years. We met in college. She was always the one with the plan, the one who smiled just a little too knowingly when she looked at me. And I loved her for it. We had our kids, our jobs, our vacations to the same cabin every summer, and the quiet, routine life that everyone said meant you'd done something right. For the longest time, I thought we were solid. Not exciting, not anymore, but solid. We had our rituals. Tea at 9. The news at 6. Grocery lists stuck to the fridge with little cat magnets. But over the last year, something shifted. I couldn't tell you the day it started. That's the thing about this kind of change. It's not like a lightning bolt. It's a slow leak. I first noticed it on a Friday. Linda had said she was going to meet her friend Sarah, lunch, maybe a walk in the park. She kissed me on the cheek before leaving, like she always did. But it felt mechanical. That kiss used to be warm. Familiar. That Friday, it felt distracted. She came home late. Said they lost track of time. I believed her. Of course I did. Why wouldn't I? But when she leaned in to hug me, I caught a scent I didn't recognize. It wasn't perfume. Not hers. Not any woman's, really. It was musky. Faint. A man's cologne, expensive, not overbearing. I asked, jokingly, did Sarah switch teams on me? She laughed. But there was a moment, a flicker in her expression, where her eyes didn't match her smile. That night, I couldn't sleep. She lay next to me, breathing slow, steady. Like someone without a single worry. And I just stared at the ceiling, trying to convince myself I was imagining things. That this was nothing. That I was being ridiculous. The next few weeks were a blur of small signs. Linda started going on more walks. She'd disappear for an hour, sometimes 2. When I asked, she always had a name ready. A friend. A neighbor. Someone she ran into. And then her phone started traveling with her. To the bathroom. To the laundry room. Even out to the backyard, where she used to sit without a screen in sight. I caught her texting once, late at night. She said it was Sarah again. But I saw her lock the screen the second I entered the room. I didn't press. I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid, controlling husband. But the feeling, it kept growing. I started paying attention. To everything. Her patterns. Her voice. The way she answered questions without looking me in the eye. One afternoon, I opened our shared Google Photos folder. I wasn't snooping. At least, not intentionally. I was looking for a picture from our daughter's birthday, one I knew Linda had taken. But as I scrolled, I saw something strange. A photo. From a week ago. Linda sitting on a bench in the park. Coffee cup in hand. Smiling. Looking off camera. And next to her, not fully in frame, the edge of someone's sleeve. A man's jacket. A hand. I zoomed in. It wasn't me. It wasn't anyone I knew. And the timestamp? Friday. The same Friday she said she was with Sarah. My mouth went dry. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I saved the photo. I stared at it for a long time. I told myself it was nothing. That I didn't know the full context. That I shouldn't jump to conclusions. But I couldn't unsee it. That night, when she climbed into bed, I pretended to be asleep. She picked up her phone. Whispered something I couldn't make out. I heard the faint buzz of a message going through. And then silence. I stayed awake for hours. I didn't recognize myself anymore. I was the man counting the seconds between buzzers. The man checking timestamps. The man whose hands trembled every time she smiled, because he no longer knew if it was for him. Then came the voicemail. It was 2 days later. Linda had left her phone charging in the kitchen. She was upstairs folding laundry. I wasn't trying to snoop. I swear I wasn't. But the screen lit up with a notification. New voicemail from unknown number. I stared at it. My thumb hovered. I told myself to walk away. But I didn't. I pressed play. A man's voice. Warm. Calm. Confident. Hey. Just checking in. Friday was everything. I can't stop thinking about the way you laughed. Text me when it's safe. The message was 32 seconds long. But it rewrote everything I thought I knew. I stood there, holding that phone like it had weight. Like it burned. My heart wasn't racing. It had dropped. Sank somewhere into my gut. I didn't hear her come down the stairs. Everything okay? She asked. I turned. Smiled. Said something, I don't even remember what. She didn't notice the phone screen still glowing behind me. And I didn't say a word. I should have. I know that. I should have exploded. Demanded the truth. But in that moment, I felt something worse than rage. I felt hollow. Not because she lied. Not because she'd found someone else. But because I knew she'd already left me. Long before that voicemail. Long before the park bench. She was just waiting for me to notice. And now. I had. I spent the next 2 days in a fog. It's a strange thing, walking through the same rooms, opening the same cabinets, hearing the same wind against the same windows, but feeling like the world inside them has shifted. Like something underneath your skin is pulsing out of rhythm. Linda moved through the house like always. She asked me if I wanted oatmeal for breakfast. She watered the plants on the windowsill. She folded towels and hummed while she did it. But I couldn't stop hearing his voice. That voicemail. 32 seconds that played in my head like a broken loop. I started imagining his face. His hands. His smile. I tried not to. I tried not to build him into something, but my brain did it anyway. Was he younger? Did he make her feel seen in a way I hadn't? Did he say things I forgot how to say? There's a special kind of pain that comes from wondering what your wife looks like when she's with someone else. And not just physically. But emotionally. Intimately. Is she softer with him? Does she laugh the way she used to, before the years hardened the edges of our conversations? Was I ever enough for her? I couldn't eat. Couldn't sit still. I took long walks with no direction. I stared at nothing for entire afternoons. I kept checking her phone habits like a reflex, the way a soldier might check a locked door after a breach. But I still hadn't said a word to her. And every time I thought I would, every time I built myself up to say, Linda, we need to talk, I stopped. Why? Because part of me didn't want the truth confirmed. Because if she lied to my face, if she looked me in the eye and denied everything, I didn't know what I would do. And if she told me the truth? That might be worse. So I waited. Until that Saturday. She said she had a hair appointment downtown. Left around noon. I watched her go from the front window, coffee mug in my hand, heart in my throat. As soon as her car disappeared down the street, I went to her office. Not to pry. Not to violate her privacy. But because I already knew. Deep down, I already knew. And I needed to see it. I needed it to be undeniable. I opened her laptop. It wasn't even locked. Maybe she thought I'd never look. Maybe she didn't care anymore. There were emails. Not many. But enough. One stood out, with no subject line. Just the letter J in the sender name. I clicked. Last night was beautiful. I know we're both scared, but I haven't felt this kind of connection in years. I know you said you're not ready to leave him. I'm not asking you to. But if we're lying to everyone else, please don't lie to me. I sat there staring at the screen, unmoving. Another email followed. Sent a week ago. You don't owe me anything, Linda. But if you show up Friday, I'll know how you feel. And if you don't, I'll understand. Friday. Again. I checked her calendar. There was no hair appointment today. No meeting. No errands. She was with him. Right now. Something broke inside me. Quietly. Not a shudder, more like a slow, twisting tear. I didn't scream. Didn't throw anything. I just, Saturday. And for the first time in my life, I didn't recognize the woman I married. I thought about texting her. About confronting her through the screen, like she'd been living part of her life. But I wanted to see her face. I wanted to see what honesty, or the lack of it, looked like. She came home at 4:30. I was waiting for her in the kitchen. She didn't expect to see me. That much was clear. She jumped slightly, then smiled, too quickly. You scared me, she said. I thought you were going to your brother's today. I didn't return the smile. I didn't answer. Just stared. She put her purse down slowly. What's wrong? She asked. Her voice tilted, too calm. Measured. Like she was trying to control the tempo of the conversation before it began. I took out my phone. Opened the Google Photos app. Brought up the picture from the park. The one with the hand. The sleeve. I turned it toward her. Who is he? I asked. Her face froze. Not just froze, but drained. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Took a small step back. Dan, she said slowly. It's not what you think. I felt something rise in my chest. Something I hadn't felt in years. Not anger. Not yet. Something sharper. Then what is it? I asked. Silence. And then, the lie. It's an old friend. From high school. He's going through a divorce. I've been helping him. Being a friend. I nodded. Then held up the second phone, her old iPhone, which she'd forgotten still had cloud sync on. Played the voicemail. Her face collapsed. Not just fear, but defeat. I asked again. Who is he? She sat down at the table. Didn't speak for a full minute. And when she finally did, it was the softest voice I'd ever heard from her. His name is James, she said. We met 6 months ago. At a volunteer event. It started as friendship. Just talking. He was kind. He listened. I didn't plan for anything to happen, Dan. But it did. She nodded. Tears already falling. I wanted to feel anger. I really did. But all I felt was the cold, metallic taste of loss. I don't know why, she whispered. I think I just forgot how to feel wanted. He reminded me. I sat down too. Across from her. And for a while, we said nothing. The kitchen hummed softly. The refrigerator kicked on. The clock ticked too loud. And I realized, this wasn't going to be a single conversation. It was going to be a reckoning. One that might tear us apart. Or expose what's been broken for years. But one way or another, we weren't going back. Not to what we were. Not after this. After that night, something shifted in the house. Not dramatically. We didn't yell. We didn't throw things. There were no slammed doors or suitcases in the hallway. Just silence. The kind of silence that isn't empty, it's full. Full of words unsaid, full of questions, full of the things we weren't brave enough to voice. Linda slept in the guest room. She didn't ask. I didn't suggest it. It just happened. Like everything else had been happening lately, quietly, passively, as if life had taken over and we were just watching it now. On Monday morning, she made coffee like she always did. She poured mine first. Set it down in front of me. Didn't say a word. I didn't either. We sat there, at the same kitchen table we'd sat at for decades, and drank our coffee like strangers in a waiting room. She didn't meet my eyes. I didn't ask her to. And in that silence, a strange realization settled in, and this wasn't the worst part. The worst part wasn't the cheating, or even the lying. It was that I couldn't feel her anymore. There was no connection left to break. It had already eroded, quietly, over time. Maybe this affair had just been the final symptom, not the cause. But knowing that didn't make it hurt less. On Tuesday, we didn't talk. Not even good morning. We moved around each other like ghosts. She left early to go for a walk, her voice cracking slightly when she said it. I nodded. Didn't ask where. I sat in my chair in the den, the one with the worn armrest and coffee stains on the side table, and just stared out the window. Watching wind move the trees. Watching clouds roll past like time itself had gotten bored of us. That night, when she returned, I noticed something different. Her eyes were red. Not from crying. From rubbing. From holding something in too long. She looked at me as if she wanted to say something, but whatever it was, she swallowed it. I almost asked her. Almost. But I didn't. Because I was afraid of the answer. Again. We don't talk about Tuesday. It's become a sort of silent agreement now. Neither of us mentions it. What she did. Where she went. Whether she saw him again. But I think about it every time she steps out of the house. On Wednesday, I found her old journal. I wasn't looking for it. I was cleaning out the attic, or at least pretending to. Trying to stay busy. And there it was, a small leather-bound notebook, tucked into an old sweater drawer. It smelled like cedar and dust. I sat down right there on the attic floor, surrounded by forgotten Christmas lights and baby photo albums, and I opened it. It wasn't a diary in the classic sense. Not daily entries. Just scattered thoughts. Moments. Feelings. One page stopped me cold. Sometimes I forget what it felt like to be touched with curiosity. I love Dan. I really do. But I think he stopped seeing me as a woman years ago. And I don't know how to bring her back. I closed the book. I should have been angry. Maybe I was. But mostly, I felt shame. A cold, sinking shame I hadn't expected. Had I really stopped seeing her? Had I let the years blur her into routine? She had changed. That was true. But so had I. I used to touch her back just to feel the warmth. I used to run my fingers through her hair while she read. When did that stop? Was it gradual? Did I even notice? That night, I lay awake in bed, hearing the distant creaks of the guest room floorboards. She was pacing. Quietly, but I heard it. Like a whisper through the walls. Was she thinking about him? Was she thinking about me? Or was she just afraid, like I was, that nothing we said now would fix any of it? On Thursday, she finally spoke. We were in the garden. I was trimming the hedge, pretending I knew what I was doing. She was pulling weeds near the tomatoes. The sun was low, gold and heavy. And she said, "Do you ever think we forgot how to talk to each other?" I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't know, but because I knew exactly. "Yes," I finally said. "I think we stopped somewhere along the way. Maybe when the kids moved out. Maybe earlier." She nodded, eyes on the dirt. "I miss you, Dan." 4 words. And they broke me more than any admission of cheating ever could. Because I missed her too. Even when she was right there. I put down the shears. Walked over. Stood beside her. "I don't know how to come back from this," I said. "Neither do I," she replied. And there it was, our first honest moment in what felt like years. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. We just stood there, shoulder to shoulder, staring at a half-dead tomato plant that probably wouldn't make it through the season. I don't know what's going to happen next. She hasn't said if she ended things with James. I haven't asked. But the silence between us is changing. It's no longer a wall. It's a bridge. Fragile, yes. Cracked, yes. But maybe still usable. We don't talk about Tuesday. But on Thursday, we remembered how to speak. The following weekend passed like wet cement. Each hour dragged, sticky and slow. Linda and I spoke more now, but only about surface things. Groceries. The weather. The broken cabinet hinge in the upstairs bathroom. Safe words. Lifeless words. But something had changed. We didn't flinch as much when our eyes met. We sat in the same room again, not always speaking, but existing in each other's space. That was something. On Saturday night, she asked if I wanted tea. I said yes. It was the first time she'd made it for me in weeks. I watched her carefully measure the leaves like she used to. Her hands still moved with the same quiet grace, but there was a nervous tremble now, just beneath the surface. We sat in silence, sipping, the lamp behind us casting soft shadows across the living room. Then she said something that landed like a quiet bomb. "Would it help you to meet him?" My stomach turned. The idea had never been voiced. Not out loud. Not directly. But it had haunted the corners of my thoughts for days. "I don't know," I said honestly. She looked down at her cup. "I understand if you don't want to. I think maybe it would answer questions. Or close something that's still open." It sounded so clinical. So tidy. Like this was a wound that could be neatly stitched with the right words and proper lighting. But I couldn't shake the thought. Who was this man that reached into my marriage and pulled out something I thought was buried in time? Who was the stranger that made my wife feel like a woman again? I told her I'd think about it. I barely slept that night. On Monday, I asked for the number. Linda wrote it on a scrap of paper. Didn't ask me what I planned to say. She didn't even look me in the eye when she handed it to me. Maybe she expected me to rip it up. Maybe she hoped I would. I didn't. I stared at those digits for an hour before I dialed. My hand shook slightly when I pressed the last number. He answered on the third ring. "Hello?" His voice was deeper than I remembered from the voicemail. Calm. Steady. Younger than me, but not by much. "James?" I asked. A pause. "Yes." "Who is this?" I swallowed hard. This is Daniel. Linda's husband. Another pause. Longer this time. Okay, he said slowly. I assume you want to talk. Yes. In person. All right. He didn't sound defensive. He didn't sound afraid, either. Just composed. Which somehow made it worse. We agreed to meet at a quiet diner halfway between our towns. Neutral ground. I arrived early. The place smelled like burnt coffee and lemon cleaner. Vinyl booths. Flickering fluorescent light. I sat in the far corner, facing the door. He walked in 5 minutes later. Tall. Trim. Probably late 50s. Blue button-down shirt. No wedding ring. He saw me instantly. Nodded. Walked over. Daniel, he said, extending his hand. I looked at it for a second. Then shook it. His grip was firm. Not aggressive. We Saturday. The waitress brought water. Asked if we wanted anything else. We both said no. Then silence. James was the first to speak. I wasn't sure you'd actually call. Neither was I. He nodded. I won't pretend this isn't uncomfortable. That's generous of you, I said, with a bitterness I couldn't hide. Another pause. I'm not here to justify anything, he said. You have every right to hate me. I stared at him. Tried to read him. He didn't look smug. He didn't look guilty either. He just looked tired. How long? I asked. He didn't ask me to clarify. 6 months. I clenched my jaw. Was it always physical? No, he said. Not at first. It started with volunteering events. We talked. Shared stories. She told me about her garden. I told her about losing my sister. It wasn't planned. Not for me. I can't speak for her. His voice stayed even. But I noticed how his hands fidgeted with his water glass. Do you love her? I asked. He hesitated. And for the first time, I saw a crack in the armor. I don't know, he said. I thought I did. Maybe I still do. But I'm not sure if I love her, or the version of her I saw in those moments. People don't always show their whole selves in borrowed time. That hit me harder than I expected. Because I'd been wondering the same thing, about both of us. The version of Linda that James had met wasn't the one I shared a life with. He didn't know her snoring. Her mood swings. Her fear of thunderstorms. Her stubborn refusal to ask for help even when she needed it. He knew the polished parts. The edited reel. The woman who could reinvent herself in someone else's eyes. And I envied him for it. I don't think she's going to leave you, he added, quieter now. She told me as much. I've stepped back. Out of guilt? He looked up. Directly at me. Out of respect. I let that sit between us. Then I asked the question that had been burning at me from the start. Did she ever talk about me? He hesitated. Then nodded. Yes. What did she say? He took a breath. She said you were kind. That you always tried to do the right thing. That you were reliable. That you took care of everyone else before yourself. That sounded like me. She said, you stopped seeing her. I looked away. Into the diner window. Into the night beyond. She said she felt invisible. Those words landed like a punch to the chest. Not because I didn't believe her. But because, in some quiet way, I knew she was right. I thought being steady was enough. I thought loyalty was love. Maybe it still is. But sometimes love needs to be seen. Spoken. Not just maintained like a car or a roof. I never meant to steal her, James said. No, I replied, voice low. But you didn't say no, either. He nodded. Accepted it. And we sat there, two men with the same woman between them, but in completely different ways. When the check came, I paid it. I didn't know why. Maybe to take back a sliver of control. Maybe just to end it. He stood first. Whatever happens next, he said, I hope you find peace. He left before I could answer. I sat there a while longer, finishing my now cold coffee, thinking about everything he'd said, and everything he hadn't. When I got home, Linda was in the kitchen. Chopping onions. She looked up when I entered. Her eyes searched mine. Well, she asked softly. He's not what I expected, I said. Neither was I, she whispered. We didn't say anything else that night. But for the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. Not because the pain was gone, but because the unknown finally wasn't. I thought that meeting James would bring some kind of clarity. It didn't. What it brought was a different kind of weight. A quieter one. Not the crushing blow of betrayal, but the long, dull pressure of decisions not yet made. After that night, the house felt heavier. Not colder, not angrier, just fuller. Every glance between Linda and me carried more weight. Every silence had a texture. A shape. We didn't pretend anymore. Not really. There were no more fake smiles or how was your day routines. We existed in the same space with a kind of careful honesty, like two people moving through the wreckage of something sacred. The next morning, I got up early and made coffee for the first time in months. She was surprised. She came into the kitchen still tying her robe, hair slightly messy, and paused when she saw the cups on the table. You didn't have to, she said softly. I know. We Saturday. Drank. The warmth between our palms the only thing shared between us for several minutes. And then I said it. I met him. She didn't flinch. She looked down. Nodded. I figured. He said he stepped back. She looked up at me now. He did. I waited. I wanted her to say more. To explain. Apologize. Something. But she just sat there, eyes fixed on mine, waiting too. So I said what I'd been circling around for days. Why didn't you tell me things were that bad? Her eyes glistened. Because I didn't know how to. Because I thought I'd get over it. That it was just a phase. That we'd come back to each other eventually. But we didn't. No. Silence again. Not hostile. Just true. I leaned back in my chair. Stared at the ceiling. You know, I thought we were doing all right. Not perfect, but solid. I never imagined I'd be the man who didn't see it coming. You weren't blind, she said gently. You were just tired. Like me. I almost laughed at that. But I didn't. Because she was right. We'd both stopped showing up fully. We just did it in different ways. I wanted to matter to someone again, she whispered. I didn't want to replace you. I just wanted to feel like I still existed. I nodded slowly. I know the feeling. And that's when I realized something that stopped me cold. I hadn't told anyone. Not my brother. Not my friends. Not our children. No one knew what was happening in our house except the two people bleeding quietly inside it. Why? Because I wasn't ready for what came after the telling. Once you speak the truth out loud, it lives. It breathes. And people expect you to do something about it. To act. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. Leave? Stay? Forgive? Start over? What would that even mean at 61 years old? I wasn't afraid of being alone. I was afraid of choosing wrong. Of regretting something I couldn't undo. That night, I went to the guest room. Not to argue. Not to accuse. I just stood in the doorway. She looked up from the bed, eyes wide. "Can I sit?" I asked. She nodded. Pulled her legs in closer. I sat on the edge. "I don't know what to do, Linda. I know. I'm angry. And I'm sad. And I'm ashamed. But more than anything, I feel like we've lost something we didn't even realize we had until it was gone." She nodded. "I feel that too. I don't want to start over with someone else. I don't want to date. I don't want to play pretend with strangers. But I also don't know how to look at you and not see it anymore. Him. That version of you. The one that didn't need me." Her lip trembled. "I didn't want to stop needing you. I just didn't know how to ask for you back. That broke me. Because I realized I hadn't asked for her either. I'd assumed she'd always be there, and she was, just not in the way I imagined." "I think I need time," I said. "Do you want me to leave?" I shook my head. "No. I need to find a way to breathe again. To feel like I'm not walking through someone else's life." She nodded. "I'll give you that. We didn't touch. We didn't cry. But something shifted. Something honest. We were finally sitting in the truth together. And it hurt. But it was real." The next morning, I packed a bag. Nothing dramatic. Just a few clothes. My notebook. A copy of that old Raymond Carver book we both loved. "I'm going to the cabin," I told her. She nodded. "Okay." I expected her to cry. She didn't. But her voice cracked when she said, "Text me when you get there." "I will." I kissed her on the forehead. The first touch we'd shared in weeks. Her eyes fluttered closed. And then I left. The drive was quiet. Miles and miles of trees passing like ghosts. When I got to the cabin, I unlocked the door, walked inside, and just stood there. Same creaky floor. Same old curtains. Same faint smell of pine and dust. I sat on the porch with a blanket and a cup of coffee. Listened to the wind. And I asked myself, for the first time out loud, do I still love her? The answer didn't come quickly. It came in fragments. I loved the woman I met in college. I loved the mother of my children. I loved the caretaker. The listener. The stubborn fighter. But did I love who she was now? Or was I just loyal to the memory of who we used to be? I stayed at the cabin for 4 days. No TV. No music. Just thoughts. And pen to paper. I wrote everything down, not for her, not for James, for me. Every word I hadn't said. Every moment I'd buried. Every version of myself I didn't recognize anymore. And when I came back home, I didn't have all the answers. But I had something better. I had the right questions. And I was finally ready to ask them. When I returned from the cabin, the house felt smaller. Not in size, but in presence. The silence that once felt tense and uncertain now felt settled. Like the air had stopped holding its breath. Linda was sitting at the kitchen table when I walked in. She stood up quickly when she saw me, as if she wasn't sure if she was allowed to come closer. "You back," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I said I would be. We stood there for a moment, facing each other across years of history and days of pain. "Can I make you something to eat?" she asked. I shook my head. "Not yet." She nodded, sat back down. I dropped my bag by the door, then walked into the living room. The clock ticked. The refrigerator hummed. I stared out the window for what felt like a long time. Then I spoke. "I'm not here to punish you, Linda." She didn't say anything. "I'm not here to pretend nothing happened either." Still, no reply. I thought a lot while I was away. About us. About who we used to be. Who we are now. She turned to face me slowly, her hands clasped tightly together in her lap. "And?" she asked. I sat across from her. Looked her in the eyes. "I don't want to lose everything we've built. But I also don't want to rebuild it on a lie." She swallowed hard. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she said. "Not yet. I know I don't deserve it." "That's not true," I said. "You made a mistake. A deep one. A painful one. But that doesn't erase the woman you've been to me for nearly 40 years. Her eyes welled. "I didn't stop loving you, Dan. I just forgot how to show it. And maybe I was waiting for you to notice I was fading." "I did notice," I said. "I just didn't know what to do with it." She looked down. A single tear rolled across her cheek. "I hated myself for what I did," she whispered. "Every time I came home, I looked at you and felt like I didn't deserve to sit at your table. To sleep under your roof. But I didn't know how to leave either. I didn't want to lose you. I just wanted to feel like someone saw me." I nodded. "That's what hurts the most. That it wasn't just betrayal. It was loneliness, and I was part of it." She reached across the table, but stopped short, her fingers curling inward. "Do you still love me?" she asked. The question hung in the air. I didn't answer right away. I let it settle. Let the weight of it land fully. "I love the life we built," I said slowly. "I love the woman who held me when my father died. The one who stayed up all night when our daughter had a fever. I love the memory of us." She closed her eyes, like bracing for impact. "But," I continued, "I want to learn how to love the woman you are now. Not the ideal. Not the version I held on to. You. Right here. With your flaws. With your mistakes. If you're willing to let me." Her breath caught. Her hands trembled. "I am," she said. "More than anything. Then I need honesty. Complete. No more secrets. No more polite avoidance. We rebuild, or we break. But we do it with both eyes open." She nodded, fast, like she was afraid I might change my mind. "I ended it," she said. "With James. Before you met him. I told him I couldn't live two lives anymore. And that I was choosing you, even if I had to do it alone. That hit me harder than I expected. Not because I doubted it, but because somewhere deep down, I had feared the opposite." "Did he try to fight it?" I asked. She shook her head. "He understood. He said he wasn't looking to take me away. That he just filled a space I never knew how to talk about." I nodded. "He told me something like that too." She smiled faintly. "He's not the villain, Dan. I was the one who broke something sacred." "We both did," I said. "We just broke it in different ways." That night, we sat on the porch together. It had been months since we'd done that. The wind moved gently through the trees. The stars hung above us, quiet witnesses. She reached for my hand. I let her take it. And in that small gesture, something shifted. Not healed. Not forgotten. But acknowledged. We didn't speak for a while. Eventually, she said, "What now?" I turned toward her. "Now we try." Not because it's easy, but because the alternative is walking away from a lifetime of mornings and movies and shared memories. I won't throw it away, not yet. She leaned her head against my shoulder. "Do we tell the kids?" she asked. "Eventually," I said. "But not now. Let's give them a new version of us. One we're proud of. Then they can know the whole story." She nodded. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I believed we might actually make it. Not because we were who we used to be, but because we were finally brave enough to become who we needed to be now. 2 months later. The guest room is empty now. Has been for a while. She sleeps beside me again. Not out of habit. Not out of routine. But by choice. We've started talking every night before bed. Real talk. Honest talk. Some nights, it's hard. Some nights, it's painful. But every word brings us closer. We even started seeing a therapist. Something I never thought I'd do at my age. But it helps. It gives structure to the chaos. Language to the pain. Forgiveness isn't a moment. It's a practice. And trust? It's not something you fall into. It's something you rebuild, brick by careful brick. Linda still cries sometimes. She'll be doing the dishes or folding laundry, and I'll catch her wiping her eyes. I don't ask. I just walk over and hold her. Because I understand now. Love isn't just romance or stability or history. Love is choosing someone, even when they've hurt you. It's seeing the broken parts and saying, "I'm not going anywhere." It's learning how to stay, the right way. And that's what we're doing. One morning at a time. One conversation at a time. Choosing, again and again, to stay.